Whitman Department of Public Works Building Committee. In attendance, Rick Anderson, Dave Cook, Bruce Martin, myself, Kevin Cleary, Dan Salvucci, Mary Beth Carter, Frank Lynham, and our owner, project manager, Neil Joyce. Why am I drawing blank? Scott. And two Stone guests. And our recording secretary, Amy Desmond. So, I guess as best as you can, try to speak up, or we'll pass it around if someone needs to talk a lot, so we can record it and
Nobody needs to talk, right?
people can understand what we're saying and doing. And I apologize, I do not have an agenda.
You got mine?
I'm still
I have one as well.
locked out of email, so.
We're getting
I
fixed.
was just saying, it doesn't allow you to reset your password.
No, you have to do it in-house. You have to do it on a computer. Remind me to do that before I leave.
Maybe I should do that. All right, we have the meeting minutes from September 26th.
Do you need a motion?
Take a motion.
Well, I'd like to make a comment before we move.
Well, you want to make a motion first and then you can comment?
No, because if it's corrected, we don't have to make a motion to correct it. Amy, I believe at the September 26th meeting, I was present, but it doesn't reflect that in the attending. Could you squeeze my name in there?
Sure.
Okay, I'm vindicated.
You're not important enough, that's how we didn't put
No, but I did vote on it, so it's probably a good idea to.
If you voted on it, how should have been there.
Okay.
So we're out.
I voted by proxy.
I'll entertain a motion to.
Second, I'll move to accept.
Second, Dan Salvucci.
All right, motion second. Any other further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Yeah.
All right, page contract. I guess we're just looking to vote this. I don't know if there's any questions.
Probably should talk a little bit about it. You want to go? Or you
Sure. No. We do have the contract here, signed by Page. We initially sent them a 7-page contract that went by council.
Which was in the documents that the draft that we sent Paige originally. If you remember, at that time, council was asking to make some amendments to the document. He didn't want us amending his electronic documents, so his request is that we send him whatever needs to be amended. He being the architect, and that the architect would in turn amend those electronic documents. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So the document he used for bidding purposes was not one that we had approved.
So when we made a couple of amendments, one for the funding which needed to be approved for the 2.2 million for the article, because we were using ARPA for the sewer force main to open up some borrowing capacity for this project, and also to take into consideration that we also had an article which needed to be approved at the special town meeting for the 1.143 million that Dennis Smith and Dave had worked on to close out a bunch of articles that were no longer needed, and we wanted to use those funds for the project. We had that information added to our 7-page contract. And then we also, we can talk about special legislation, which we're waiting for, which was another item that came up. We also did a further revision to also add that to the 7-page contract. So when we sent that all to Paige, and they reviewed everything, they came back and said, well, we only, need to sign the contract that was in the documents that went out for the bid. But they said they, did understand the two articles that needed to go through town meeting and the special legislation. So we sent the information back to Nancy Campany and just made some minor revisions to the 3-page document, sent it out to Paige, and that is what we received back signed. But it's not the 7-page document that Nancy had gone through last March 27th, I think it went out to Greg at HKA to be incorporated. So we do have a document that we can work with here, which we would like to vote and actually sign this evening.
I'll make a motion to accept the general contract and authorize the town administrator to sign the contract.
I'll second that, Dan
That
Salvucci.
authority is presuming that the Board of Selectmen is giving you that authority to sign contracts. I believe they have.
I believe so, too, not specific for this one, though. We haven't had a recent.
No, you have a general
Yes.
authority to sign the contract.
Okay, we have a motion in second.
No, I have a question.
Any further discussion? Rick?
I just wanted to know, did Paige have any reservations about the delay associated with the special legislation or the delay
Right,
with
that's,
additional
you
funding?
just asked my question. Thank you, Rick.
I have not had any discussions with Paige. Greg did reach out to me, and he wanted permission to contact Paige to see if they would rather begin as soon as we got the special legislation, since the two articles, subsequent articles did pass, whether they would prefer to begin in winter or as soon as we get the go-ahead, or if they would prefer to wait till April. And so I told him we were having a meeting and not to reach out to Paige and see what this committee wanted to do.
Well, it would be interesting to hear what the conversations were with Paige associated with the delays with the funding, right? And they could go on a little further. There could be some economic conditions for the contractor to delay the project, wouldn't you think? OPM?
I have not had any direct correspondence with Paige regarding start dates. So I can't speak. All I can tell you is I don't think things are gonna get any cheaper.
Right?
So I would be very surprised if he was willing to
And your
say,
phone
I will
line.
just wait till April to start. Very surprised.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna have a conversation about what we're planning for a schedule, would certainly be good to find out if they had some reservations about waiting. Or were there gonna be some, heaven forbid, economic conditions that are gonna have to be added and funded before the project gets underway?
Well, I think the reality is the longer we take to finalize this contract, the more likely it's going to be that
An issue.
we are going to
Right.
incur expenses. So right now, the bear is resting. I don't want to poke him.
Well stated.
Let me just follow up with the architect and the OPM. Are there some economic conditions with the delays associated with your fees?
No, not directly. A lot of it depends on what the level of effort is that you would require from us from now until April, when our work technically would start in full. I don't know what the architect feels. I'd rather not speak for him regarding his own financial matters.
Right, was he planning on coming to this meeting, or was he not invited?
No, I think he was invited, but he wasn't coming. I texted Mike at 5:02 and said, "Are you planning on being here?" And he said they have spoken with you, and he said no.
Mike?
We're not.
Who's Mike?
Mike Viana. He works with Craig.
I spoke with Greg called today
Yeah,
and said he had spoken with you, and you had
He-
said check with
he
me.
knew there was a committee meeting tonight.
He did.
Said, "Is there a reason why I need to be there?" And I said, "Well, it was my understanding when the committee met, we were expected to be there, unless told otherwise."
Okay.
And I said, "So if you are unable to attend or wish to reach out to the town ahead of time, we've already spoken to the town and we're expected to be there. So I will be there.
Okay.
So that's how I left it with Greg.
Okay. And I know when I talked to him last week, I think he said his son is graduating or graduated this weekend or today or sometime. So he had something. He wasn't sure he was going to be able to make it when I spoke with him last week. But when he called today, he said, I understand on the agenda. I said, on the agenda tonight is the contract, which will be discussed and hopefully voted and signed this evening. We will be discussing the contract, ADS, about the DEP filings, and an invoice to approve. So he said, okay. But the way he made it sound, I took it that neither one of you were going to be here, which I don't know why I thought that. But
Here I am.
here you are, which is great.
I have a question. The issue is that there's a possibility now, special legislation to what? Use ARPA money? Is that what you're saying?
No. So special legislation, that issue came about when bond council issues what's called a green light letter. Whenever there's an article to borrow money.
Yeah.
They issue a green light letter. Everything is cleared on their side. The vote was taken properly. Everything looks good. They called us on this 17.8 million and said, we are going to need special legislation. And I said to the treasurer, why? We've never needed that before. And he said the reason was, and I talked to Rick Manley from Bond Council, Loch Lord, and he said because it was a debt exclusion and we had the article voted in the annual town meeting, our annual town meeting, unlike a special meeting, calls for the town's special election within the annual town meeting warrant. So the town clerk since 1902 or whatever, way back, has never had to post a annual town election ballot question separately. For a special election, we have a special town meeting warrant, and then we have a special town election ballot that gets posted, a warrant with the ballot question, but not with annuals. And we've never had that done. And I asked, why is this an issue? He said, Mary Beth, this is so common that we have a form letter prepared to send out to towns. He said it's not uncommon.
Have you contacted other towns that may have run into the same situation?
It doesn't matter, Dan, we can't move forward without the legislation. I will tell you, we have in the past voted to borrow money at an annual town meeting
Yeah.
with an election. And I would have treated this no differently. I would have done nothing differently.
Right.
Apparently, this particular council is taking a much more rigid view of the requirement for election than maybe other people would have. He's issued that opinion, we're stuck with it. So it should be simple to get a home rule legislation that doesn't affect anyone or anything other than the permission to borrow. So have you talked to either Allison or her office about where we are on that?
Yes, so I called her a couple of weeks ago. It went to Senator Brady's office. It went to Allison's state rep's office. We had our meeting on October 30th, October 31st in the morning. I emailed it to both and mailed it to both. So I waited a few weeks for them to go through the process, and then I reached out. And they're working on it. Matter of fact, they came back over and got some stamped copies. And I talked to Allison today, and she said that it's made it through the House. She's checking on the next step. She said if it does have to go to, I want to say general.
There's no reason for this to go to a conference committee. The House votes it, the Senate votes it, the governor signs it.
Right. So it's gone through the House. So now it's at the Senate. She's going to check on that. I said, look, this is the last
So
step.
put some heat on Brady.
Yeah, I'll call them
Yeah.
tomorrow. Yep.
So if we vote this tonight, right, right, and then, so we're all set on this, now they have to approve it, and then the project gets started.
Correct. As soon as we get that vote, we're ready to run.
And that clause is in here about the special legislation.
So if we, I think we we want to get the contract approved, because then Paige can get
I'd
contracts.
like to get it approved and signed and get it
Right,
paid,
through the side, get it paid so he can get
so that
contracts.
we have a contract.
Because I think our biggest exposure is the file subbidders.
Yeah.
Because they can just walk up and say, sorry,
No longer
it's gonna cost more.
bid.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because they have no loyalties to anybody. Page, us.
Technically, they either have to, they would have to execute the contract and then file a claim. So,
Right.
if they don't file, if they don't sign a contract, if they refuse to sign the contract, then I think the town would have no right of recovery on their bid bond because of the expiration. I think it's good for 90 days or 45 days. I'd have to go back and look at the language. But I think there is a time limit on the bid bond.
so confusing.
So that's you get them a contract. Page can do all his contracts. I guess the question is, could we start the project? Could
So
we issue an NTP?
Yes,
with this
can't borrow any
legislation.
money.
we have
Well, right, but so if we
1.143
give an
million.
NTP,
And
we have to be able to pay him.
We don't have enough of an appropriation to honor the contract without that approval.
So this would be, Page, here's the contract. You know, we'll start submittals, we'll start engineering. Hey, we're not gonna start the clock, that's good for him.
Right.
We'll issue a notice to proceed as soon as we get.
As soon as, yeah, we can't do an NTP.
Mary Beth, I think they they estimated to us 6 or 8 weeks,
Originally for the special legislation, that is what they had said.
right? So, and you said you sent that to them on the 31st?
I sent that to them on the 31st. I checked with them a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And I think that each office thought the other one was pushing it through.
Close.
Yeah.
Right.
So they brought it into the State House a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I followed up today and said, look, this is it. I mean, this is
Kid.
17.8 and we need this through. She said, I'm checking on it. She said, I'll keep you posted. She said, it passed the House, so it's in the Senate. And then she said, if it has to go to the general, then that would be a meeting in January, because we're already at the 11th of December. But she doesn't think, not sure that it even has to.
It only goes for conference if there's an issue with the bill.
Right.
As long as the House and Senate approve it, the governor can sign it once the last body politic has approved it.
Okay.
So
Then I'll,
I will tell you, if you ever have to do this again, when I had to get legislation, I rode the train to Boston, sat in their office, and walked it.
I would gladly have done it. I would gladly have done it.
That's how we got the armory. I get tired of waiting. I
Pretty
go
cool.
I just had a question on the time frame of the special legislation that we'll be looking at. You know, you kind of asked the question already, though. Like, so we're looking at mid-January, best case scenario as far as that.
Well,
You mean if it has to go to that third step when they meet in
I'm
session?
kind of hoping
Well-
it'll happen by mid-December.
Right.
Right.
Well, 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8
from
weeks.
November
We're in
31st
mid-December.
is
From
mid-January.
October 30th.
October 30th. I sent it off to October
So we
30th.
gotta-
They just voted the budget,
Okay.
didn't they?
You have to get it by next week, or it's not gonna happen until mid-January.
Yeah.
Because then you're gonna lose 3+ weeks of
Right.
holiday and
Right.
whatever else.
Time to be
And
called.
we told Paige that once we have a signed contract in an email, that we could then meet and discuss things from there. So
Okay. So in a roundabout way, that's where we are. So we have a motion and a second to
Proven side.
approve and sign the contract.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I had a math question, but I answered it while you were talking.
Okay.
It's the alternate, the lightning alternate, we did accept that.
Yeah, we included that. We'll,
Yep, that's fine. Okay, so, I'm all set.
any other discussions, questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the contract?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
going to sign as we sit here.
Okay.
And all three.
That's good. I guess we'll have to wait to see what happens with legislation.
What can we do to be a pinta to Allison and
Well, Allison's done her part. It's held up in Brady's office.
I will call them first thing.
Surprised.
And one more.
Yeah, I did me myself, and I gotta do I.
Yes, would help.
Okay, those are signed.
30 page.
All right, well, that's good. We'll get them a contract at least. ADS Environmental.
Yes, so I had a conversation with Andrea Stiller. Because of the contaminants found, the DEP filing was 120 days, and we're coming upon that. So I sent everybody the information. She said that, you guys, the town, can file, but she said it usually, if she handles it, because I'm sure she wants the business, but if she handles it, she'll do all of the
I
monitoring.
let the people know how to do it.
That's what I mean,
Stay that
the whole way
out.
through the process. Did you see her quote that she sent along? Let's see. I think it was 137,000.
This is for
174,000.
to take care of the DEP filings and
Right, part one
associated.
to prior to construction into early construction. Yes, and then part two is during the site development / earthwork, and then 3 site closure. So the whole way through, taking care of all the filings. 174,000 is her estimate. It's assuming a 2-year project completed the end of 2025. Did everybody see what the email I sent out with the?
I will say that we had a similar problem when we did the additions to the schools in 1999. It was shortly after I left the board. And we chose to go the cheap way and not
Okay, cool.
have a LSP handle it for us. And everything fell by the wayside. And in 2002, I got slapped with an order for non-compliance within 2 weeks after I started as town administrator, and I had to go down to DEP and argue that we shouldn't be charged $50,000 for failure to file and follow the requirements for contaminated soil at the Conley School. So I'm a believer you pay the people who know how to do it.
So hold on, Frank. What you're saying though is you can do it for 50 grand. It's gonna cost us 173 to do it.
No, because then I had to hire an LSP.
Good question.
You know who I hired? John, the guy at DCAT, John. I figured if I hired him, nobody would question it.
Do we have to pay the 50? Do we have to pay that?
No, we didn't. We got out of paying the 50, but we did have to pay an LSP for about 1.5 years to remedy it.
Oh, test it, man.
Couldn't resist.
I would have taken the shot.
I'm assuming there's no overlap. I know there wasn't really anything in the.
Is this being done through Greg's contract?
I don't know for sure. I don't believe so.
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Well, if it's being done through Greg's contract, we'll have administrative costs. If we're contracting it, there isn't.
I think there wasn't anything in his. I don't think there was in his scope of any type of environmental. We paid him to date to do the initial soil samples, and we paid to do the history of the site, and because it's one of those you don't know what the costs are.
Mary Beth, I'm just concerned with the value of the contract.
Yep.
Relative to a procurement process.
Okay,
That's what my concern is.
okay. I'll show you,
It's-
email you this.
That's
I want you to
fine.
see this.
Yeah, I know.
I believe engineering is exempt from 30B.
I would just want to make sure.
I'm pretty certain that
That's the case.
engineering
No,
is exempt from
That's
30B.
Rick, you have a question?
The contract, the letter was submitted to us on December 6th with the proposal. Am I right? Is that
oh, the
what we're
letter that I
talking
have
about?
here, dated December 7th.
Yeah. So, we're not required to bid for engineering services.
Right, yeah, I mean, we've done it.
And she wants me to sign the letter that says the town of Whitman has requested that as licensed site professional, you make the appropriate filings with the Mass Department of Environmental Protection, Mass DEP, in accordance with the Massachusetts Contingency Plan, MCP, as necessary. In connection with the above referenced sites to MCP filings, the town of Whitman hereby authorizes you to electronically sign the DEP transmittal forms on our behalf. And this is Andrea Stiller.
Well, this adds up to 174,000, right?
The letter does not say that.
The
Correct. Correct.
proposal they sent out.
That's right.
I'm gonna make a motion to recommend that we accept this proposal.
Rick has a question.
I just wanted to, I just think it would be a good idea if we had a conversation with the architect to see if any of his efforts are duplicated in this. I mean, I think that would be due diligence before we enter into a contract, to find out if we're already paying for some of that within the contract with the architect.
I'll modify my recommendation subject to clearing, subject to clarifying whether any of these services are covered under our contract. I don't believe they are.
Is there a deadline for this submission or?
Let's make a motion up to that amount.
It's going to be an ongoing, I think.
Well, she had the deadline, the first deadline was the 120 days from when the
Right.
contaminants were found. So we're nearing that in, I think, by the end of this
We
month.
certainly.
Right, we'd have to file an extension,
Right.
which shouldn't be a big deal.
That's what
but-
drove this, is she's coming to the
Yeah.
end of the 120 days. But I can certainly reach out to Greg. Do you reach out, or you want me to call Greg? Or
Either one. I can do it.
will you do?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, and just check and see if any of these.
I'm almost positive that Greg's contract does not include.
I think we talked about that.
I think it was a budget allowance.
Yep.
For her to come
I
out.
think it's outside of his basic fee.
And that's
So it would be
sort of our
cost
conversation with Andrea. I thought so as well. But why don't we triple check? Okay.
Definitely.
So my motion is to authorize it subject to clarification on the architect's responsibilities.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion second. Is there any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
So we'll set that aside in the project budget. If you can send me a copy of the proposal, that'll be funded through contingency, because that was not.
Okay, I'll send you that. Yep.
Right.
Get that over to you.
For right now, we'll track it separately. If it turns out it goes through grants, we'll amend at a later date to include his administrative fee, and
Okay.
we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. We have some invoices to approve.
We have one invoice that came in from Helene Carl
I just sent it,
Architects. 18,900. I've sent this to everybody. I sent it to Neil, and Neil agrees with this invoice. Gave us the okay to pay. And it's invoice number.
Motion to approve.
Second, Dan.
All right, we have motion second. to-
20016-4, 18,900. Just wanted that on the record. Yes, it's invoice number 20016-4 in the amount of 18,900.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor to pay the listed invoice?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Okay.
Okay. Any old business? I don't think there was anything.
Frank, anything
Not that we
else?
haven't talked about.
Aye.
Dave?
Might be appointed. Did we vote officially on members at the last, there was a meeting in,
It sounds like there's some discussions because
yeah, there was a short meeting. I forget which date it was. And,
well, we talked about it.
yeah. Do we need to? I guess that's the question. Or should we?
So
Like-
Dennis reached out to me, sent an email that he would be interested in the member at large position. So I checked that still is open.
Yep.
And I spoke with Dave LeMay, and it depends how the vote was originally taken, but the vote to have Dennis on this committee was taken by your board. So the Board of Selectmen would do the member at large, but it would
No,
be.
the Board of Selectmen voted the committee with the recommendations from the DPW.
Yeah.
With the recommendations,
Yeah,
okay, because Lori
the-
said today
the
it would be the BO.
The committee is formed and authorized by the Board of Selectmen. So the selectmen have to vote any memberships.
But the recommendation first from the commissioners.
If they get it along short.
Yeah.
Well, not for. I guess we appointed the two commissioners.
Not by name, just position?
Right.
Well, but the commissioners were appointed by name. The superintendents were by position. So when the selectmen formed the building committee,
Okay.
it was the water and sewer superintendent, the highway superintendent, two commissioners to be named by the commissioners,
Okay.
and then it went from there. And the selectmen.
So there's slots. The
Well, that's
Board
what
of
I'm saying.
Selectmen vote to create the positions. And the Board of Commissioners choose who fits those slots.
But my question is, if
Just
they
from
had
commissioners.
just said the superintendent of water and the superintendent of roads, if not by name, then
It's
could
by
Dave
position.
just fill it?
Yes.
Right.
yeah,
That's what I
Dave-
So now that Dave is in that position,
Dave would
he's on the
transition into
committee.
that because the vote was
Yeah.
check the vote.
That's what I mean. I want to
But
make sure
I
that it's not
believe,
by
I
name.
remember discussing that they're discussing that the positions, the two superintendents would be members of the building committee.
Okay.
So the selectmen would need to vote
For Dennis.
for Dennis
That's
as
right.
the last at large.
Right.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's just Dave would automatically fill.
Right. And Dave
Right,
just
well,
comes in as
yeah.
the superintendent.
So move up in the chair.
That's right. We'll verify the vote.
Right. Now at least get us back to a full.
We can now
10 person.
officially blame Dave for things.
And still blame Dennis. No.
Okay. I guess next meeting. I guess it probably kind of depends on approval of legislation.
Question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to update the committee on, the armory and how we've started to move some stuff from the perimeter of the existing building, and there are a couple issues at the armory. The water's off, and the reason why the water is off is because there is no heat in the perimeter of the building, just in the big garage. So we're gonna have to get a couple space heaters to put in the perimeter rooms, the bathroom essentially, and probably purchase a small electric hot water heater because there is no hot water because the boiler is not operable, and it's going to be it's a huge project to replace the boiler or do work on the boiler at the armory, but it does have a gas heater that heats the big garage area.
Would it be easier just to turn the heat on?
From what I
No, the
understand,
boiler didn't work.
Okay.
yeah, it could be
Boiler.
tens of thousands of dollars to
Okay.
get that boiler up and
Okay.
running.
Okay.
So the gas heater does fine at heating the large open area. It's just that heat doesn't migrate into the outer rooms that have
Right.
water in them.
Do we have any extra large heaters around?
We don't, so we're gonna have to buy some space heaters just for those rooms.
The other thing is, if you're gonna run water, even with the heater, you're going to have to put it on a continuous loop. Because if it gets cold enough to freeze, it's gonna freeze before the heater comes on again.
Right. Well, the space
You have to
heaters
have a
in
continuous circulator.
space heaters in the outer rooms are gonna have to stay on all the time. And then the outer, the big garage, it's set at a normal garage temperature in the 50s or something. It's just I think we have to have the water on in hot water because we're gonna have employees stationed there, and I think we'd be violating some kind of rule if we didn't have bathrooms without water. So,
That's the police station for. I mean, the fire station.
Fire station.
Can't you move the waste though?
yeah.
That's it.
I guess I'll ask, the committee, is it worthwhile to schedule something just after the holidays with Paige? Even if we don't have an answer on the legislation, at least they'll have a contract. The project's moving forward. It's just some paperwork to be able to fund it, but I think it would be worthwhile
I think it makes sense.
to get them in here and, just after the holidays and
We
start
have to push it back.
getting their ideas and schedule
It
and,
enforces our presumption that we have a contract.
right.
Yes.
Hopefully we can talk about NTP and starting, but at the minimum we can
Yeah. Plus, I'd rather have something on my calendar.
talk to them on a schedule and
But just an update, paragraph 15 on HKA, it says services for environmental assessment of the property and other related services are not included as part of HKA's fee proposal.
Okay.
I don't think he's gonna have a change of heart.
Yeah, as long, like I said, as long as if this is considered engineering services under procurement laws, like no issue doing it outside
Right?
of Greg's contract. But if you get into a procurement
Oh,
issue,
that's a whole different ballgame.
it,
But if you check chapter 30B, you'll find that engineering services are exempt from bidding under chapter 30B.
They let you do that qualified bidder. The qualified engineering services, you can. I don't know why they do
You'd
that.
be surprised some of the things exempt from bidding.
They won't let you do the architects.
One of our biggest contracts is exempt from bidding, trash.
Right.
Really.
We bid because it makes sense, but
It wasn't.
we don't have to. Yeah.
so one thing I would like to pose back to the town, just as a thoughtful question over the next 3 or 4 weeks is when do you think you'll be ready to have the contractor start? If he shows up at the gate with contract in hand, drooling, I just don't want you to be surprised.
Well, I think having this meeting that Kevin's talking about is huge because
Underperformance.
I may be in the minority, but I would like to see how he feels about starting mid-January, which it will be.
Right.
Or, you only talking bumping them back,
terms
if
below this.
we bump them back to even March 1st. I mean,
That's a matter of what? Knocking
I know it's not a popular thing, but
Well, if he has no other project going, he's not gonna really be
Right.
amenable to that idea.
Right, and
You
my
decide
fear with
January?
putting it out there is he's already been delayed
Right.
since August.
Right.
So I'm just very nervous about giving him any indication that we are not shovel ready for him to show up and go to work.
I agree.
And I just really want the committee and more so you folks that work there every day to put things in motion so that, God forbid, he shows up at the gate and is ready to go.
well,
We're not caught short.
so signing this contract is not a notice to proceed.
It
Correct.
is not.
Correct.
That is
So the meeting that we proposing to have with them, I'm assuming like the second weekend around January 9th, or whatever. the
Well,
Monday-
yeah. I guess the hope is that we'd be meeting with them, and if we get this legislation based off their timeline, we can give him an NTP.
right.
That's the best case scenario, that we meet with them after the holidays and we give him an NTP.
In the back of my head, right?
The ninth?
He's
Maybe
already,
the selectmen's
he's had
meeting.
4 months to
That's a
complete his buyouts,
Set the
to have everybody
Set
set
any, I
and
know.
ready to go. Like there could be a fleet of equipment lined up down the street as soon as we issue the NTP to have them roll into the site and get started. And I just don't want to be short-sighted about hoping that they'll wait until April. That's my only concern. And I know it's a lot. You guys have been in there for a long time. And it's always difficult to get things moved out and to get that ball rolling. But I really think we need to apply some gentle pressure to keep that effort moving forward.
I guess, where are you at?
So this week and actually this weekend, Saturday, we had the guys come in and we moved, like I was saying, we moved a bunch of the stuff away from the perimeter of the building, just so you can get to the outside of the building, because you really couldn't, except for where the garage doors were. And we put a big dent in that, and I plan on continuing that work. Today was a lost day because of the rain and everything, and we had some flooding issues and things like that we were taking care of. But anyway, so the rest of this week and moving forward, we're going to continue that process of moving everything from the outside. Pulling all the trucks out isn't a big deal. We're going to park them at the armory, mostly outside the armory, some inside. But yeah, it's going to be a process moving out of the maintenance area, getting all the tools up there.
Yeah.
And that's why, that meeting with him will be huge. Like, is he going to, if he says he's going to be, if he tells us on January 8th that he's going to be in there in 7 days, then we'll just go, we'll have put quite a bit of dent in it, and then we'll just go crazy with all hands on deck, moving the rest of the stuff out of it. A lot of stuff in the garage, besides the stuff that's mobile, like, the trucks and equipment, is junk.
Right.
It's stuff that they can cave it in when they move the building up. It's just like old sheet metal and things on the wall and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I want to caution you, they're going to tell you that they're responsible to move everything that's shown on the contract documents. And if there's stuff left behind,
You're paying for it.
you may wind up paying for it in the end.
Right.
That said, if that's the cheapest alternative for you and you go into it with both eyes
Throw a
open,
metal in.
No
bring it
problem.
down.
We can get a lot. That garage is easier than the front garage. But when we did a walkthrough with Greg,
Yep.
and he had a demolition guy actually doing the walkthrough there that day.
Yep.
He estimated that for tearing down a building that had stuff in it, not necessarily like broom clean inside, everything out of there that's just trash anyway. So
There's a lot of it. Yeah, all the basic stuff will stay. We'll have to go through it.
yeah,
Yeah. Metal, just throw it in the
Cages,
trailer,
all that
sell it.
stays.
Do what Dan does with the spear of wood that falls.
Yeah.
Just put it in the trash.
I was going to say,
No,
anything
just-
fixed to the building, right? Think about picking the building up and shaking it. Anything that falls out really should be yours to deal with.
Right.
Anything that's fixed to the building really can remain and doesn't have to get removed.
okay.
I think, to what Neil's saying, we got to be ready to go.
Yeah. So when do you want to have the next meeting? Remembering if we pick a Tuesday night, we could be interfering with the board of
Well, yeah, and I know some others have some other conflicts. I mean, does a Monday night work for everybody? I know,
The Monday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
Monday or Wednesday,
does Monday the 8th give everyone the week?
Monday the 8th.
Bring my calendar.
I have something on the 8th, I think. Oh, regional agreement committee maybe.
I don't mean to snicker, but I refuse to ever be part of that.
How about the 10th?
I had no choice.
The 10th? The 10th too late?
That's
December 10th. I mean, January. You moving?
Moved away from the 8th?
Yeah, we moved.
well.
I can do the 10th, but don't let that affect scheduling the meeting.
The
Do it on
3rd.
the 8th.
3rd too soon?
We do the 8th,
Want to do the 8th?
so we'll do 5 o'clock on the 8th.
Kevin, the meeting with the contractor, with Paige, were you considering that to be an open meeting? Like full committee present, or were you considering that to be a smaller group that would report back to the building committee what the discussion was?
I think
The only
it's,
reason I'm asking is I'd love to get that lined up for right after New Year's.
Right.
Get them in, get some information from them, figure out what they want to do. And I think that'll help shape the committee's discussion.
I would suggest for the benefit of the committee, as long as we have the administrator, the chair, and the OPM available, I don't know that we all need to be a part of that meeting. I mean, that's more administrative than
Well, that's why I asked. Just want to make sure.
Would chime in, don't let me make that decision.
I guess I'm not so sure how much the chair is going to be available. That's a whole separate subject.
Who's the vice chair?
Well, you can designate the vice chair.
Thanks, Frank.
Walk right into
All,
that one.
all in favor?
Did you feel everyone else step back? I did.
Completely forgot.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, I think it's a very good idea. I think smaller group, the better, for some initial stuff.
I was going to say, or sooner.
You know,
I wouldn't be opposed to doing it before the holidays, if we can get everybody together.
obviously he's going to get this tomorrow. He'll get a contract,
Yeah.
so at least
Well, we have to,
I just need to stay away from Wednesdays.
Okay.
on the performance bond, payment bond, I'm just, they
Yeah, give
need
them
to
7
sign
days.
one particular area.
Yeah,
They didn't, so I have to see if they'll come out and just sign that, the original documents.
Okay.
But I'll tell them that the contract is signed as long as they sign those.
Today is December.
Did you do the 18th?
I mean, if we want to do a small meeting, I could do next Monday. You know,
Maybe you should let them reach out and find out what the availability of
Yeah.
the contractor is, and then
you know,
and do it by email.
What,
You should defer to their schedule.
are you Kevin, are you probably the most restricted?
I don't. I know Frank has some restrictions. You know, during the day is going to be next to impossible.
it's a tough ride for Boston for Kevin.
I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, no. That's fine.
I can be available if you need another person.
You know, just yeah. I'm in Boston now full time, so you know we'd be evening.
5 o'clock or something?
Yeah, I mean,
Along
yeah,
those
5.
lines?
Yeah, 5 o'clock, and
So when are we talking for that one?
I don't know. I'm going to reach out to them and find out if I can set something up for next week.
Okay, and I'll reach out, just these signatures on the bonds.
yeah, Monday the 18th, Tuesday we have our commissioners meeting.
Right.
We have a selectmen's meeting too on the 19th.
Yeah, if we could do something like that, and I think maybe then we called the 8th for a committee meeting.
I just wonder if can you do it before the notice to proceed and all that, like you said, the contract, but set it up.
Well, it'd be yeah. I think we have the small sit down. I don't know if we'll have an answer within a week on the legislation.
Yeah. If he's
But then we can meet as a committee on the 8th, update everybody where we're at, what's going on,
Yeah.
get an update from Bruce where he's at, and
If you
we'll have that better information. Okay, do we want to issue an NTP?
you say that I spoke with Allison today.
You know, I would guess he's chomping at the bit to get
I
going.
would think so. And I'm just thinking in the back of my head, demo guys work all winter.
Right.
If the first thing he's going to do is go in and tear that building down and get it off its foundation and expose it, open the site up, it would not surprise me in the least bit if
And
he
that
had
would be
that
good
guy
project.
queued up and ready to go.
Right. Then even the next step, all the ground improvements. That's all good winter work. So, you know, I think he'll have a little bit of utility stuff to do, but it's all on the site. He doesn't have to go out in the street and do stuff. He can, whatever he's got to do to make everything still work,
Yeah.
he can do on the site. So, you know, whether it's
Something with
water,
water.
or sewer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you don't put any water in it, it's not a problem. It's just a pipe.
Yeah, he's really just got to cap some stuff.
Right.
He's got to cap the surface.
If all he did is cut and cap it,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
defer
He can-
the new utility work until the spring.
Right.
Right, as long as he can maintain your operations and access to and through or whatever we need him to do.
Right.
I would think he's gonna
He'll be ready to go.
roll up and ready to
Just
go.
not a spot.
Does that building have any impact on the fuel depot?
No. It will
Not
shut down the dog pound
Yeah.
as soon as we cut and cap.
I don't think they're using it anyway.
No, that
Still, the leaf file isn't an issue now either with this delay.
That might be for Dan.
No,
No, he just puts it in his trash. We have to.
not leaves. Not leaves.
He told us to put sticks.
all right. So I guess a meeting next week, TBD with Paige,
Yeah.
small group. If it's that evening, I can
We'll try to make something work.
do Monday, even Wednesday. It's a little difficult after that.
Okay.
And then I'm on vacation for like a week and a half. That's what I was saying. That'd be tough the weekend.
So we can get that letter
I'm on vacation
tomorrow,
through the 4th.
right, Mary Beth?
So,
Which
The
one?
contract?
You want to ask that guy who he is?
Well, we don't want to get
And
that
then,
until we have somebody come and sign.
we'll leave the committee meeting for the 8th.
Oh, they come and sign.
I'm not in.
So we kept the committee meeting on the 8th, and we have a tentative meeting,
Send her an email.
depending on,
I can do that.
with the contractor on,
Next week. And I guess we'll have to just, I guess 3 of us can attend. With the building, we're gonna meet with the builder,
Oh, so
separately.
it's not a quorum.
so if I'd like Dave and Bruce there, because they're the ones that have to live with it.
Right.
Obviously, yourself and me, or if I can't, and Frank, or I think if we keep it to 4, then we'll be violating any.
Right. Right. Open meeting
Rules.
law. Yeah.
Okay.
That it?
Anything else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5:55.